November 3, Foxtrot, Juliet, Zulu.
Roger, Roger. And what's the name there?
The name is Rick. Romeo, India, Charlie, Kilo. I'm in Manchester, Maryland, running a scratch-built rig.
Okay, Rick, looking at your audio, I think we could probably get that a little fatter if you would be interested.
Well, because the rig is scratch-built, it's built from individual components. I do have some control over the mic gain, which I'm in now, but do not have any control beyond that, since it's programmed with the soldering iron, of course. Over.
Okay, you do not have a compressor?
No, it's going into a simple one-transistor mic amp. It's an electric microphone, and the rig is loosely based on the Bidex 40 Asher Fairhand radio that he put out as a project. I scratch-built it, and it's, like I said, it's loosely based on that design. It uses a PLL, and I have a dual IRF 510 final driving a 50-watt amp. That's all scratch-built. Over.
Okay, gosh, now that I look at it, try turning your mic up just, let's see, do you have an actual volume control for your mic level?
Yes, affirmative. Yes, I'm increasing that now, and I should be peaking at 50. Over.
Okay, tell me, it sounds like it might have got some distortion. Tell me about your antenna system for about 10 seconds.
Okay, I'm driving an 80-meter horizontal loop fed by 600 ohm ladder line, and it's driven by a link coupled balance tuner. Over.
Roger, okay, you have picked up some distortion from somewhere I don't know. It might be RF in the AF, but back it down to where it was. You were close enough and a lot cleaner.
Okay, I've backed the mic gain down a little bit, and what I'll do here is I'll actually bring it down even further and bring it down to about here. And this is now about halfway on the control setting, about 50%. Over.
I'll tell you, Rick, I think you're getting RF in the AF because I could actually hear your hand causing that RF into that circuit. So put your mic control back exactly where it was when we first started talking. Move your hand away from that control, and I think everything will be eureka, magically restored to perfection.
Okay, I'm actually moving the mic a little bit further from the rig, and the ladder line, of course, comes into the shack. And it's not surprising. If you look at my QRZ page, you will see the construction method. So it's basically it's an experimental rig, and it's in the spirit of homebrew and scratch building. Over.
Oh, roger that. Well, you have achieved a bit of finesse there because it's actually working pretty good. Now, you do have now common ailment that most all of us have from time to time, and that is, I think, RF in your AF. And I would suggest that you get one of those old-time field strength meters, you know, those $14 CB field strength meters, and take that and start looking around your shack and try to find the hot spots and then minimize those hot spots. Sometimes, you have to maybe work on your ground. Just out of a word of passing, I have 3 grounds. I have one ground just for the final and the antenna tuner and the antenna switcher, and then I have 2 other grounds that are tied together that serve as the ground for the rest of the shack, including the mic preamp ground, because it didn't seem to me to be too smart to be hooking my preamp ground to my SB220 ground. That didn't make any sense to me since I'm trying to keep RF out of that preamp. So I did go to I have 3 separate grounds, and they work just beautifully, Roger.
Oh, affirmative, yes. Well, Jim, thank you very much for the advice. Again, QRZ page, my QRZ page has some photographs. This thing is just laying out on the bench, all open. I'm moving closer to enclosing the equipment, and I suspect the RF that I have no doubt that we do have RF going into the AF. It's probably coming from the 50-watt amp. And what I'm going to do before I sign with you, I know there's a lot of people waiting, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to a QRP level. You may not hear me, but stand by 1 second. Over.
Roger, I'm all ears, I hope.
Okay, now I'm probably running close to 5 or 10 watts at this point. Disabled the 50-watt amp, and now I'm running on what I call the 20-watt amp, but it's dialed down to 5 watts, and I don't want to waste your time by dialing it back up, but if you're hearing me at all, you may have some reduction in the RF. Over.
I'm copying you at 3 dB above my noise, and from time to time you got closer to your mic, and you really had a lot more modulation possibilities there. So, just think about the fact that when you go down to those low QRP signals, that you can actually turn your mic your mic level up and make it, Roger.
Oh, okay. That's what I've exactly done now. And matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and dial up the power somewhat here. I'm probably producing probably 20 watts. But anyway, I'll let you go, and I want to thank you very much for the time, and it's part of my learning experience in building amateur radio equipment. N3FJZ, over.
Yeah, roger that, Rick. But just amazingly, man, you're doing Atlanta, Georgia. You're doing a 10 over in Atlanta, Georgia, Roger.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is all inspired. I was licensed in 1983, and essentially I was leader and packet radio pursue my career in computers. And just recently I got back in 2009. I upgraded to general, and in 2014 I started actually building equipment, and my goal was to build my own rig from scratch, just not a kit, but just basically. It was one of my rules. And the other thing I purchased is the watt meter, the SWR meter, and the dummy load, because I wanted to start somewhere. I didn't want to have to homebrew everything, but it's such an honor and a thrill to be able to speak with you today, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results on the YouTube. Over.
Roger that, Tim. Well, best laid plans of mice nor men. To bring my studio up to being on, so to speak, there's 1,000 different things that I have to do to make sure everything's running. And we were doing some work in the studio and had to pull one of the power supplies to put a soldering iron in. And that power supply that we pulled was the power supply that makes our visual source indicator work. And so I looked over to see the Georgia SDR on, and nothing was working, and I rotated through my stuff, and I was getting no lights, and then I recalled the problem, so I just on camera just went over and turned plugged the wall wart in that drives the lighting system for our visual input source indicator, just because I wanted to see you, or be able for you to see that you were actually on the Georgia SDR and the relationship between the Georgia SDR and my two local receivers. So I did have you for the last 10 seconds or so, 15 seconds, indicating that you were on the Georgia SDR. Now, what kind of power were you running at that point?
I would say about 3 to 5 minutes ago, I was running maybe 12 to 15 watts. I've increased that now to the maximum that this small amp can produce, which is my solar amp. So you may be even seeing some distortion.
Roger, I was just going around and I missed that last part. But anyway, Rick, so you can see when you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor and get on our YouTube page, our Qso page actually, you'll be able to see that you were in fact doing probably about 8 over on the Georgia SDR, and you were nowhere else to be seen, nothing on my two local receivers or nothing, Roger. So anyway, you probably find that interesting. Anyway, you have a real good day, a great weekend coming up, and we'll say threes for now, and thanks for checking in. This is KC9VKV, the Qso-Vlog network in progress for Thursday as opposed to a Friday. We have commitments tomorrow, so we thought we would go a day early. But anyway, if you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.